Welcome to Baseball Biz. I'm Mark Carpenter, your host, and with me, of course, is Brandon No Way. How you doing today, Brandon?
I am doing fantastic, Mark. How about yourself?
I am doing crazy nuts, unbelievable, excited, and mystified. I mean, we had some new news come our way yesterday. I mean, initially, you and I were going to be talking about the CBA first, but wow, a bit of news popped, and there's Stu. We're talking about the Sister City program with Montreal and the Rays. What's happened there?
Yeah, well, it started out, it was just a normal day of kind of boring, actually, nothing too exciting, almost like a cloudy, rainy day. And then all of a sudden, like the movies, the rain stopped, the clouds went away, and then the sun came out. And that sun was that MLB has killed the Sister City plan.
Wow. You know, the way I found out about this was a text from you yesterday morning. Boys and girls, real quickly, if you don't know, Tampa Bay Rays team has been under a cloud, if you will, from a fan's perspective for the last couple of years, that of the 81 home game teams that they would, home teams, let's try this again, the 81 games that would be played at home in Tampa, we would only be getting half of those. We'd be splitting them with Montreal, playing half here and half in Montreal. Good. It was good for Montreal, but a lot of the local fans didn't feel that way. It got the support from a lot of folks. But yesterday the news broke, and there you are. You're letting me know, and I'm checking it out. There it is. The MLB killed the Sister City program that's really been being worked on for 2 to 3 years now, Brandon. What was with that?
With the killing or the Sister City plan?
Well, just give a quick summary on the Sister City plan.
Well, to be honest, I don't really understand the point of the Sister City. Stu thought it was a great idea to, double dip in both cities. He thought, I want to keep the Rays in Tampa Bay for generations to come. And he apparently didn't think it was good enough for a full season. And he thought, why not split the beginning half of the season in Tampa and then the second half of the season up in Montreal? And he was like really onto that for a while. Even last year during the playoffs, he's going to put up a sign promoting the idea. And he eventually caved to that idea because of all the pressure that the fans put on him, because it was a horrible idea, to be honest. And credit to him, he admitted that. And before we knew it, I mean, it went quiet for a while. We got business leaders here in the local Bay Area saying, we support this idea. We think it's the only way baseball can survive here. And even Rob Manfred endorsed it, but that was a couple years ago, actually. I believe it was before 2020 they endorsed it.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking back. I was checking a story from Danny Russell, and he's with D-Rays Bay. Had a story. I think he was probably quoting Mark Tompkins from the Times. We were looking back in there, and Manfred was here in town, and he was saying, you know what? He said, quote, I am 100% convinced, and more importantly, the other owners have been convinced, Rob Manfred. And this is him talking about the whole Sister Cities program. But what was also interesting was just 7 months before that, he was saying, well, it's kind of in the free lunch category. There's no such thing as a free lunch. We have an issue in Tampa. It needs to get resolved somehow. If it means we give a potential expansion site to solidify where we are at, so be it. Oh, geez and knees. You talk about being all over the place just within 7 months from one another. It's how can you have any kind of sense of what's going to happen? I mean, you're there saying, well, there's no free lunch and we may just have to do away with that Tampa being there. And Stu's 100% convinced. And then yesterday, the news was MLB said no. And I cannot begin to imagine, Brandon, if I was Stu Sternberg, who had been promoting this idea, who's been building on this idea, has planned out the future on this idea of a sister city, and getting the kibosh this week.
I feel conflicted on this because to be honest, I hate both sides. I hate the MLB who runs it, and God knows I hate Stu Sternberg. And it's nothing personal, but I just don't like the guy. I mean, just looking back at the timeline of this, I know, COVID probably threw a wrench into this many months, years ago, actually, at this point. But it seems like it was just so unorganized from the start. Like there was no clear cut plan, nothing really to it, and just no communication between the league and the Rays. Because if Stu was under the impression this whole time that they were behind it 100%, including the owners, and then just a couple days ago to get the news, hey, we're killing this, we don't want this. I don't get it. This just seems so unorganized. There's just no communication.
Well, with any project that a major company takes, even a small company takes, they have a project manager. And this person goes in and explores all the pitfalls and all the benefits and all the people and places that have to be in concert with one another to make things happen. And you need to have like almost an engineer's mind to be able to decipher and say, okay, this is the go. Here are the people. Here are the elements. Here's the deliverables, the things that we have to have done to make this happen. And like you're saying, I don't think that was, if it was ever done, it certainly wasn't transparent to the fans.
No, and it's a little bit of karma to Stu if it was MLB not communicating with them and being, unprofessional and minor league in a sense. But I mean, even though I hate them, but at least have respect for each other to communicate with them and just be honest and say, hey, just looking at the situation we're in right now, we don't know if we can approve this anymore or if we can support it. Or did they ever really support it? And he was just using it as a negotiating chip.
That's something I think a lot of fans have questioned all along. And I mean, if you look at just the way the MLB has gone back and forth on this, and those are several owners and some things where Stu's gone back and forth with some of these things. I think about when he first announced this at the Dolly Museum and that one fan screaming at the top of his lungs from the mezzanine, traitor, traitor, traitor. And I just don't know if they can't see well enough, if they're not in touch with the fans. I think that's probably true of most owners.
Yeah, I don't think he's in touch at all with the fan base. I mean, you never see him at games. You never hear from him at all. He didn't even live here until I think maybe 2 years ago. Whereas, and I'm going to bring him up again, Jeffrey Vinik, when he bought the Lightning, he uprooted his entire life, his business, his family, everything, and moved them down here to own this team. And Stu didn't do that. And, I mean, maybe he just didn't want to uproot his family. I don't know his family situation, but he didn't do that. You never see him. I've never seen him at games outside of opening day. I see him more at Mets games. I don't see him here in St. Pete.
I don't know. Is Jeff Vinik just too high a bar for people to connect with? He's certainly one that all owners should aspire to. I think that much is true.
I mean, communication and respect. That's not really a high bar in my book.
Okay. Well, let's think about this for a minute. Why did this just come out now? What do you think when we're looking here and saying, okay, this is something that Stu's been with us now for 17, 18 years. Stu's been talking this for about 3 years. He's had a couple of years with the endorsement of MLB. People in Montreal, I'm sure a lot of them were excited to have any kind of idea of a team being there. Stephen Bronfman, the big guy who was pushing this, the guy who had actually been with the Montreal Expos as part of the ownership of that organization. He's the one who Stu was working with this time. But why did Stu and Stephen Bronfman just get that information the other day? You and I were going to talk about the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement between the Major League Baseball and the Players Association was going to be the pivotal beginning of this show. But I don't know. I'm asking myself, is the timeliness of trying to get that done matching up with this news about the Rays and Montreal Sister City being killed?
I mean, I could see that as a possibility to where that would come up, but I'm not really sure if that's, forefront of their minds right now. Maybe it was just something where the owners are like, we're not in a position to do something like this. There's other things to worry about. Maybe that's what they were thinking.
Well, let's go back to the idea of the expansion, of adding a couple more teams, adding a couple more teams to the roster. Okay. We had 2 more teams in Major League Baseball. Who are you going to get? You're going to get Vancouver. You're going to get Vegas. You're going to get Nashville. Are you going to get Montreal? And if you do expand Major League Baseball from 30 to 32 teams, what's it going to take for those two teams, those two new cities, to be part of Major League Baseball? What's a franchise cost?
From just typing it in right now in Google, according to Yahoo, Rob Manfred said earlier this year that the value of an expansion team would be $2.2 billion.
$2.2 billion. That's a lot more than just sharing a team with another city, because I don't know that really any more money would be coming into MLB's coffers.
And another thing, I don't know what the relocation fee would be, or if there would be a fee at all for this idea. But in that same article from Yahoo, it says that expansion fee would put that team immediately in the top 10 of MLB team values, just from the expansion fee.
Wow. That's just, again, mind-numbing to me. But, well, okay, let's take another step back. Before there was going to be a sister city team, I'm looking here now at some notes from Stu, 10 or 11 years ago, when there was an ABC coalition, and he was working with Mayor Baker at that time over in St. Pete. And they came up with the conclusion, they needed a new stadium back then. So that was part of the plan before the sister city came to be. There was a plan for one city, Tampa, getting a stadium for the Rays in Ybor. And it looked glorious. Just and this wonderful glass roof, which would magnify light and heat into the stadium as well. But that wound up being a pipe dream.
And I was so excited for that stadium. I thought it looked awesome. I don't know how the glass roof would have worked, but I was excited for it anyways, because I thought it would have been cool to, see the skyline at night, or see like the storms coming in and it'd be storming outside, but you can still play. I just thought that was so cool. And that didn't come to fruition for many things. I mean, I heard that Stu was only offering 100 million or 150 million, something like that. I didn't see anything concrete, but that was just what I've read. Then before you know it, the sister city idea came through, and he was willing to put 350 million towards that for an outdoor stadium. So, I mean, hey, if he's willing to put 350 for that, why can't he put 350 now for a full season stadium?
Well, I think you're on the money there, Brandon. And I was doing a little homework myself as well, because last year, just as the fans really started coming back into the stadium, in Texas, they opened up the Ranger Stadium up there and said, "Hey, everybody, come on in, come on in." Governor said, "There's no restrictions." So with Ranger Stadium, I was really curious, because again, I don't know if the stadium did that, but they had the authority of the governor to do that. But he had good reason to do this, man. I mean, because they had a new stadium. And what did Arlington have to do to make that happen? Well, first off, in 2016, the residents in Arlington voted overwhelmingly to cover $500 million of a $1.2 billion price tag to build that stadium. Now, that was going to be done, I think, also with a tax they already had in place. They had a half-penny tax, sales tax. Now, with that sales tax, I don't know what it was going to before, but for the next 30 years, it was going to be paying off some of that $500 million. The other things that they were doing in Arlington was they were going to increase the hotel occupancy tax by 2%. They were going to increase car rentals and add another 5% tax on that. And they were going to charge the Rangers $2 million a year to rent the facilities. So they did quite a bit of planning on this, and it was a good strategy. But I don't know that we would get that same kind of endorsement here in Tampa Bay as far as taxes to make this thing happen.
I heard from Ken Hagan when he did an interview a couple days on the local sports station that they were considering doing like a tourist tax where, we being the locals, we wouldn't pay for it. Our tax money wouldn't. It'd be the tourists are basically paying for it. You know, the Yankees, the Red Sox fans, they're paying for it. And I thought, you know, that's seems like a win-win. Nobody's really paying for it other than outside people. And, you know, maybe just split it 50-50 down the middle. City plate or tourist pays half and Stu pays half. And it's not like you have to pay it all up front. You pay it over time. Like, say he put 400 million towards it. He could do 20 million over 20 years. Like, you don't have to pay all the money at once. I mean, I know you want to get it as cheap as you can, but $20 million over the next 20 years, the way these contracts and money's going, that might be a steal.
I believe so also. And one other thing to add about that Rangers Stadium is that once that referendum went through, that vote to, taxes on that, the team itself took out a $600 million loan. So, like you said, you don't have necessarily have it all in your back pocket to get this going, but we certainly see where they've had some success. And as far as a destination, not to take anything away from Arlington, but the Tampa Bay area is huge as far as tourists coming here. To put a few extra nickels and dollars, whatever, on every person who comes to visit this wonderful area to pay for that stadium, I don't see as a problem.
Yeah, I think, the DFW area is more known for like business travel and stuff like that, whereas the Tampa Bay area is more known for tourism. So, I mean, I think it's a perfect idea. But will like they being the Rays go for it?
Yeah, we'll see what happens with it. I want to go back for a moment to the press conference with Stu yesterday. I was anticipating from just that initial text that you sent me and a quick look before anything else had really evolved, that this was some change in Stu's heart, that he said, well, we're looking at this closely. We don't have the support here. So we're going to go back to an original plan of really just doing something in Tampa. But that wasn't the case. Like, so we found out it was MLB. And all I could think of was I had this image of Stephen Bronfman and Stu Sternberg standing there at the altar waiting for the priest because they're ready to get married. And no, the priest doesn't show up. Oh, and by the way, the reception hall next door, they're tearing down the streamers and all the catering food is now gone. It's empty. And where do you go from there? And to see Stu Sternberg still actually give that press conference after all that, I said, whoa. So I give him kudos for doing it. But, he said some things that kind of got me, it really kind of stuck in my craw. And one of those was one of the questions he was asked is like, what is it going to take to really do something well here in Tampa? He said, well, we're going to have to look at what's happening in the stands. We're going to have to look at what's happening as far as attendance. And I thought, Stu, don't expect any changes next year. You haven't made any changes. You haven't done anything to endear yourself to the fans. You haven't done anything for the proximity of where these guys are playing to make it any better than it was before. So what you gonna do?
Yeah, that to me, I mean, that seems like he's looking to push responsibility on other people. I mean, he needs to do a lot of brown nosing, if you know what I mean, because he lost a lot of people, including myself. And it's not going to just happen, with the statement saying, yeah, I'm sorry. That's not going to happen. You need to do more. And I don't think he's going to do that just because I just don't think he cares. He just cares about the payday.
Well, he's got a pretty good payday from everything that's not going inside the stadium. I mean, if we take a look at, I was looking at trying to find out the traffic of people watching the game. And you brought this up to me before the show. So I dug a little deeper, and you may have something different, but here's what I got. I found that, between the 2018-2019 season, the Tampa Bay Lightning, which fills Amalie Arena, had about approximately 43,885 households watching each game. Now, if you go to the Tampa Bay Rays, another statistic I saw for them is 74,000 households. That's significantly different. And I can imagine a lot more money is being made as far as revenue dollars, advertising dollars on that broadcast than even the Lightning you probably gathered.
Yeah, and Matt Germain said it a couple weeks ago. TV is where the money's made, and people conveniently leave out the TV ratings in this because look at the Lightning, how much fan support they get, how much community support they get. I mean, they're beloved. How many times do you go out and do you see something Lightning or Bucks? For a team that really doesn't seem like it embraces its city, they're doing better TV ratings than a team that is embraced and beloved by the city, by everybody. So, I mean, people conveniently leave that out because I guess it doesn't fit their narrative of nobody in Tampa cares about baseball. But, you know, I mean, that just shows that they're lazy. Because if you do the research and look, you're completely wrong.
There's a benefit, whether you're not a baseball fan or Rays fan, there is a benefit to having a successful sports team in the area.
And look, it's like free advertising too, because every time the Lightning are on, well, it was NBC, or now it's ESPN or TNT, they'll show live shots around downtown Tampa. I mean, they'll show the Riverwalk or where the Armature Works, that restaurant area by Blake High School.
Yeah.
Whatever that, yeah, they'll show that area. That's like free advertising for the city. And well, every time there's an all-star game here for the NHL or the Super Bowl last year, how do you think that made the city look? Having every sports station, news station showing shots around your city for a week. The most watched sporting event, arguably in the world. Definitely in America.
Well, you're talking about that, and you're right. And it wasn't surprisingly to see after that press conference, some politicians acknowledge the strength of having the Rays in Tampa. And I think Jane Castor was, on board with that. And was Commissioner Ken Hagan, who's been on from the beginning saying, Tampa only, Tampa only, Tampa only. And one of the stories the other day says, well, I knew this was coming all along. This was dead on the vine. And I thought, well, I'm glad you had that insight. I certainly didn't.
I saw, this is maybe a little bit off topic, but I saw a guy, I guess he's Montreal based. His name is Todd Battis. I believe that's how you say it. I apologize if that's wrong. It's Battis, Todd Battis, I believe. He tweeted out, and this was about last summer, May, June. Dear Tampa, we're taking your cup, then we're coming for your baseball team. Love, Montreal. How's that looking there, Todd? Team was one post shot away from getting swept, and now the sister city's dead.
Oh,
here to comment.
We had to send him some love today, man.
Hey, he kept it up, though. Credit to him. He didn't back away from it.
Well, it's, you're going to stand up. That's great. That's great. But you're looking at Montreal, and they still have opportunity. I guess there could be an expansion team there. But I was looking at something from the Montreal Gazette the other day. And they're saying, Steve Bronfman said, at this point, I kind of put my hands in the air. The chapter's closed. So, well, and said he compared this news to a bloody eulogy. Whoa.
Oh, my. Well, yeah. It did sound like a eulogy the way Stu was acting. I mean, it sounded like somebody backed over his dog right in front of him the way he was talking. He sounded so sad. And the picture you sent me looked like he'd been crying.
Oh, it was tough, man. You look at Stu now and you look at him when he got this team 18 years ago, and it doesn't look like he's just aged 20 years. It looks like it's a lot more than that. It's been tough on the dude. And like you, I don't agree with the man about 90% of the time, but wow. Bronfman, going back to the Montreal connection, says, we all got slapped in the face. We all got the same surprise together, and I'm just tired and a little upset. Well, you and I and a lot of other fans have been a little upset for a much longer period of time. So forgive me if I'm feeling a little relief while you're experiencing a little pain. So God bless you, sir. But as a Tampa Bay fan, sorry.
We need that Price is Right style buzzer. That's it.
All right. Oh, man. So, yeah, what's the question? What's the question on the board up there on the Family Feud? What was it? Name one thing that Tampa Bay Rays fans want the most? Go ahead, Stu.
They want to have their team in two cities.
It's like I said, they don't know their fan base. And I mean, talking about the Rays, I mean, we are so fortunate to have a great team that we have. And I want to thank Stu for bringing Eric Neander in and doing all that he and Kevin Cash and all those young players have done. I mean, it's exciting. I still love the team. I've just really had a lot of problems with the front office. And I don't know, brother. I don't know. But here's one thing, a sense of urgency to everyone. And that is, there is a time limit right now. And we're talking about at the end of 2027, the Rays don't have a home yet. At least nothing that is going to match up with this news. You know, will the stadium, the two-city stadium that Stu was looking at building, will that still fit with just being in one city?
I think when they were doing the sister cities, the stadium was going to be a little bit bigger. And if it were going to be full-time, they were going to do it smaller, like around 25,000, which, I mean, to me, it sounds perfect for a baseball stadium where the attendance figures are headed. I think that would be perfect and more towards the future than the sister city idea.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, look, the complaint too was we're only getting about an average of 9,000 people per game. I think that was the number that was being utilized, and that there's many times where it'd only be 5,000 in the Tropicana. But again, the Tropicana is not going to be a viable option, at least as far as agreements with St. Pete at the moment, after 2027. So I hope whatever ideas that the Tampa Bay Rays have for a new stadium in Tampa, that they get that thing hustling, because you and I were talking about this, and we know construction doesn't happen overnight. It isn't like some of these church groups. We bring everybody in and they lift and raise the building within a day. This going to take a while. And I don't know, brother. So we're talking just a few years out before we got to have a new stadium and everything rocking and rolling.
Yeah, you know, I expect something to start picking up here soon, because they don't have time. But I mean, I'm going to have to see some sort of commitment and initiative from Stu, because they're not going to do the sister city idea. So it's all or nothing, which is what people wanted.
Well, let's address that for a moment. What people wanted. And you and I have our thing here talking about the Rays and a lot of other things with baseball on Baseball Biz. But media in general, local media has been, more than friendly, I believe, over time to the Rays and certainly the management. And I don't know, does it go back to the old axiom, don't bite the hand that feeds you?
Yeah, I believe it does, because I'm pretty sure that's a big money deal. And hey, I mean, I know that's how the world works. I don't blame them. I'd probably be doing the same thing. But, some things, it feels like they don't completely voice how they feel with the people. Like they were saying, oh, well, something is better than nothing. And, if you were a Rays fan, you'd support this. And I don't remember a host hearing that. I've heard people saying that. And I'm not saying that about a host. And I'm seeing them say, if baseball can support it, why can't we as Rays fans support it? Only for, I actually believe, 72 hours later to say that that idea was dead. So special shout out to that tweet right there. But I mean, like you're saying, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. And, you got to be a little bit more, not like censored with what you say, but more careful. You can't just be honest. You can't, I don't think we could say what we say about them. Yeah, we can't say, we wouldn't be able to do that if we were somewhere involved with the Rays. Organization.
If we didn't have broadcast rights, if we were, we had commercials from them on here, et cetera. Yeah, it probably feel a little less critical or sharing all that critique. So I get it. I don't like it. And I look at Ken Rosenthal and say, hey, Ken, how you doing? Oh, I'm sorry. You just got cut from MLB. presumably for making comments that weren't completely complimentary about Rob Manfred. So it's there. And what was that? What was that movie? It just came out. Shock and Awe. Have you seen that?
I have not.
Shock and Awe. And it's about the Knight Ridder group covering, the whole idea of weapons of mass destruction. And they're trying to get this story out. And anyway, they seem to be the sole news source talking about this. The New York Times is writing something, but it seems to be, right in step with what the administration at that time was saying. Many said, well, that's not right. That's not accurate. And let's see if I can remember the quote. It's something along the lines is that when news becomes a profit center, access is the cost, or access. So meaning that, and if you become a profit center and you're focused solely on profit, it's damn difficult to be able to do that and still get access to everything. So, and I feel that's probably a challenge a lot of broadcasters, if they want to still have access to the team, if they want to be able to come in to the stadium, those are privileges. So you can't look at this as necessarily hard investigative news when you're a sportscaster.
It seems kind of like how they kind of like to scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and like House of Cards, where, the politicians, they'll leak stories or they'll give info to media members about it if they can put their spin on it. And in return, they're helping them out by making them look good.
Exactly. And I'm going to go back to my movie there for a moment, because what was interesting, I think the lady's name was Judith Miller from the New York Times, wrote all of these things that kind of, like I said, was in lockstep with the administration, only to come back later, sometime later, where the New York Times had to come back and apologize for their coverage or the lack of coverage of what they did with the weapons of mass destruction. Again, I don't look at baseball as anything with the import of disease or war or anything like that. But it's just that, you can't take anything at face value, and you have to realize that these announcers and these broadcasters kind of semi-handcuffed to what they can do. Now that we got so political, not where I want to be.
That's political for us.
Yeah, it's very political for us.
It's a TV show.
That's right.
That's what we can say.
So now that we've given you guys an economics lesson about what you can and can't say as a broadcaster, let's take a look at some other things with Stu.
Yeah, he had the thing where I don't remember what the exact question is, but he did have the quote of, "I'm not really an all-in type of guy." And it's like, well, two things I immediately thought of. First of all, sports is an all-in type of thing, my guy.
Yeah.
So you got to go all in to win. And that reflects in your on-field product, because when was the last time you really saw the Rays go all in and say, "Here are my chips, I'm pushing them in, let's go win a title"? I can't think of one. Even this year, they went and got Nelson Cruz, and we were like, they don't really need a bat, they need pitching. That just wasn't an all-in type of move.
Yeah, and you got to look in those deep pockets. They're not going to get Shohei Ohtani here, that's for sure.
I mean, that's just one thing that I took issue with. And I mean, I know he probably wasn't. That's just something probably should have thought before you said something like that.
Yeah, and I agree. And we've looked across baseball over the last couple of years, everything from the whole Astros screw up with the trash cans to who was that other guy, Mather, whatever. He was at some sort of online JC's Zoom call, and you think he was imparting knowledge from a dark corner and saying things about people he should never have said. And you think, are you guys grown-ups yet? Have you figured this out? And I think all in all, I was almost surprised how well Stu fared yesterday. He certainly, I think, dropped the ball 2 or 3 times. But if indeed he just got the news earlier that morning, kudos to him, because I don't think that could have come off much better.
I don't know if he got it that morning, but I heard it was a couple days before.
Ooh.
That was just what I thought. Or that's what I saw in many different places.
Well, and that it broke news before they announced it. That was poorly done too. Somebody in PR should have had that in place. Should have said, "Stu, we need to get out with this news." The one smart thing was that he began at least with a prepared statement, whether you liked it or agreed with it. He did start with that.
Well, it's MLB and the Rays. Do you really expect anything to go professionally?
I don't expect. No. But as long as they're talking about going professionally, let's talk about that Players Association and the Major League Baseball. Do you want to say more before we jump into this?
No, I don't want to sound too negative.
Okay.
I think we got enough covered for the day.
Yeah, I think so too. So all of you guys, whether you're Rays fans or not, you do have to understand the importance of saying no to a sister city program, because in all likelihood, that's not going to happen for any other team in the future. And, I have my views and Brandon has his, and I truly do believe part of that came down to being able to make a lot more money with an expansion team. And I don't know right now, Brandon, because the collective bargaining agreement is still being negotiated. I mean, we're in the lockout phase still, I guess. And earlier last week or this week, I can't remember, that MLB put something out in front of the Players Association that says core economics. And I don't believe they jumped up and said, "Oh, yes, please, let's sign now." They're coming back with I'm seeing here today. Today's being January 21st on a Friday. That Monday, the Players Association will have something to show the owners and see if they can get somewhere so we can make sure we have a 2022 season.
I mean, I don't really have high hopes for this going anywhere because, it sounded like they weren't impressed at all with the original one, and I don't expect the counteroffer to really be anything more from the Players Association side. But I did have this thought earlier, and I believe I brought it up to you. The longer this goes, if it makes the season shorter, is that really a bad thing for baseball? Because everybody knows the season needs to be shorter. Is that really such a bad thing? I mean, financially it might be, but for the game and interest-wise, I think that'd be better long term.
I think for a lot of markets that would be true. I don't think that necessarily all of them. I think maybe even the wear and tear on the young player, might be better. But it might be better as far as fandom being able to afford going to these games. Maybe it would fill up the stadium more. I don't know.
Maybe it'll get momentum towards that dream 80 or 100 game season everybody wants.
Yeah, well, if
that won't happen, but it's just it's nice to think.
Well, the season with COVID with 60 games, it was an interesting season. A lot of people were real upset about the whole idea. So, well, you're going to have a World Series with just 60 games. What can happen here? And one little flashback to the Rays, while they had over 100 wins last year, percentage-wise, I don't have the exact numbers, but the year of COVID with only 60 games, they had a higher winning percentage than they did with the season with 100 wins. All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you one other thing, Brandon. That's that they need to get this done. They being the Players Association, they being Major League Baseball owners, get the CBA done. We want baseball. I guess if nothing else, we've said this before, I guess we'll have a minor league season, but I'd like to see Major League Baseball this year.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, even a shorter season, if that's the worst case, that's not all too bad. But I mean, if there's no season at all, which I believe we're very, very far away from, that'd be like almost a death knell for baseball because they really can't afford to miss another season, just the way they are.
Well, and if we do have a shorter season, it might go to what your strategy is saying, hey, you know what? We've seen this now. We saw it in the 60 game season, and we saw it in the lockout season where we had a limited number of games. Didn't it work anyway? I don't know. We'll see.
Just plant the seed in their head.
Love it. Love it.
Although it's a good idea, so it probably wouldn't cross their minds.
Well, I think we've done enough seed planting today, man.
Oh, I did have one more thing that I forgot to bring up earlier.
What's that?
With the Sister City idea, Stu said that MLB would be afraid to be first, and it's never been done before. There's just a small little problem with that. It kind of has been done before. Back in the 70s, it was the Kings and the NBA split cities between Omaha and Kansas City, as they were like sort of moving from Omaha to Kansas City. They were splitting. And another MLB team split cities between their hometown and San Juan, Puerto Rico for a couple years. Would you like to guess who that team was?
Kansas City Chiefs.
No, it was the Montreal Expos.
Oh,
And that was because they could not get enough fans in the stands. So they decided to do a split city option their last couple years. So
that
hasn't been done before, but
that's nuts. I think, and Bronfman said something almost identical to what Stu said about it being a new idea and them not being ready for it. Well, those of you who do a little history, as Brandon does, you'll learn a lot more. We're going to hope that all the Rays fans get what they want. We're going to hope that all those 39 plus business leaders who signed that letter saying they support the Twin Cities a week ago, we wish them all the best. And I'm looking forward to a 2020 season, man. I'm looking forward to going to the Trop a few times this year, not 81 games, but more so than I have in the past.
yeah, or at least give us some drama to talk about. You know, it makes it easy, and hey, it's good for ratings too. So
There you go.
let's get some drama going.
All right.
You hate drama.
Yeah, you hate drama. That's right.
It's good for the show.
It's good for the show. Why don't you take us out, brother?
Yeah, everybody, thanks for listening. And you can follow us on Spotify, Stitcher, Tucker, and actually not Tucker, Twitter. If you remember Mark's slip up there. Make sure to give us a like, follow, and review the podcast, as that helps us. And thank you for listening.
Thank you all again. And remember, you can find Brandon on Twitter at SportsSplitsPod and me, Mark, at The Baseball Biz on Twitter. And when we love all your questions, love all your answers, and yeah, we even enjoy your criticism. So look forward to talking with you all again real soon. Special thanks to XTakeRUX for the music Rocking Forward.
That was pretty good.